My man, what's going on? Welcome to the Wisdom and Grit podcast. My goal with this show is to introduce you to the men who build the world and create lives of impact so that we can celebrate them and work together to fulfill the call of masculinity in our homes, our communities, and the world. I'm your host, Corey Huddleston, and on today's show, we're going to be talking mental toughness and political activism. So if you get easily triggered, you're probably going to want to move on from this episode. Today's guest is a prime example of what it means to be a man of impact. Despite a difficult upbringing and a course, he was on a crash course for a dysfunctional life. The death of his two brothers and eventually his mother gave him the wake-up call that he needed to step into his destiny. At 32 years old, he's a U.S. Air Force veteran, head of cybersecurity for one of the largest airports in the world, national committee man for the Texas Young Republicans, and president of the Denton Young Republicans. And I think he said vice chair for Cool Conservatives. We'll get back into that more lately. He's driven by purpose and a sincere belief that his actions that he takes on a daily basis have the potential to make the lives of others better in the future. So please help me welcome my friend, Chris Betts. Chris, what's going on, my man?
Hey, brother, how you doing? Thanks for having me on here, man.
Dude, my pleasure. I actually had the phone on and I was sitting there doing it, started echoing in my ear there. So, but dude, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you got a lot going on every single day, man. But to be a part of this, it really does mean a lot.
I appreciate it.
So I'm excited to kind of dive in with you. We actually had a conversation about an hour ago, and we were kind of diving into some of your upbringing, and man, I was really blown away. So I'd love to start it there, Ashley, if you don't mind, and just kind of dive into kind of like how you grew up, because I think that's going to play a key part in how we move forward in the podcast.
Yeah. Basically, I guess the best way to go about this is raised by a single mom for the most part. Me and three other brothers, so I was a family of four brothers. Kind of just grew up in a really rough area in Kansas City. A third grade center, Hartman Elementary, had metal detectors. Grew up as the only white kid in my school. Lots of big issues. Not a lot of stability in life at the time or anything like that. Just kind of growing up a little rough, getting in lots of fights. If you see, I've got stitches and scars and scrapes all over my knuckles. Just kind of going through the gamut. I remember kind of just monetary situation was always really rough. My mom worked her tail off, did everything that she could. And we kind of, it's kind of one of those situations where ramen noodles was, that's the night, you kind of take everything you can find and put it into a big jar, a big pot, and you start all up. You have ramen noodles when there's leftover chicken, there's some stuff here, some stuff there, and you mix that together, make whatever, and that's dinner. And then even going outside of that, like I remember on birthdays, we would always get like either a new pair of shoes or a new pair of jeans. And that, if you got a new pair of shoes or jeans, you know what you're getting on Christmas, because you got the opposite. If you got shoes on your birthday, you got jeans on Christmas.
Wow.
And I remember we got so excited because my mom, like, she splurged on some really nice jeans. They were just flannel jeans. You think about this, like, we got so excited because mom got us flannel jeans. Because in Kansas City, the winters are icy.
Yeah.
And it was just like the coolest thing in the world. And we just got so excited for small stuff like that. Nowadays, I think about, like, I got cell phones. I look at what kind of wheels I should get for my car, like stuff like that. Just thinking about like how spoiled I've gotten over the years, So, yeah, I mean, it's been a ride. I definitely believe that I'm the luckiest man in the world, though. I joined the Air Force so I could get some structure in my life. I had some scholarships for football to a couple different big colleges, and because I was kind of a stubborn brat, my mom said, go to college, and so I took the opposite path because I'm a brat. And I went and joined the Air Force. And so that gave me the structure I needed, though. I think that was a better choice. It's given me a lot of skills. I did knowledge operations management for the U.S. Air Force with the 442nd Fighter Wing. And I mean, that got me into cybersecurity and IT and all that fun stuff. And so got out of the Air Force, moved to Texas. Here I am, and loving every minute of it. I'm the luckiest man in the world.
That's awesome, man. So it wasn't always that way, though. And that will be a key part of this conversation, was the mental toughness component of why you believe that, because it wasn't always that easy, obviously, with all the things that you just mentioned, but you lost your two brothers. You were the youngest of three, right?
No, I lost my three brothers. I'm the youngest. I'm the second born. So I have my older brother, Derek, that passed away, then Matthew, then Michael, who both also passed away. So I had two younger brothers and one older brother. Yeah.
Dang, I didn't realize that. Okay. And then your mom passed away as well of a stroke, right?
Yes, sir.
So let's kind of dive into that real quick, as far as your brothers, because I know one of those was a medical condition. Kind of what actually caused those deaths?
So when we're really young, Derek passed away when we were really little. I don't have a whole lot of details on that. It was when I was super, super young. Like I was like 1 or 2 years old, so I don't necessarily know a whole lot. And it just kind of is what it is. That's kind of the situation. But Derek Adolski, he's buried in Oklahoma with the rest of our family. Kind of just is what it is. He was about, I think, 5. I'm not sure. Anyways, outside of that, then Matthew is my first younger brother. He was born with some lung issues. He kind of was kind of in an iron lung for the first couple of years of his life. Had multiple sclerosis as well. So I guess about 6 years ago, about a year after I moved to Texas, he had some lung complications and his lungs stopped and he kind of suffocated. And then my youngest brother, Michael, a couple weeks after my mom's stroke, he decided to commit suicide. And so that was that. So.
Wow, man. And then, so that couldn't have been an easy thing to deal with, like from the mental stability standpoint of just kind of like, how do you move past something like that, you know? Or do you? I don't even know. Like,
I don't know. I mean, so the best way I've ever found to cope with it is I'm going to show him why he should have stayed. With Michael, my youngest brother, passed away. It's like that's been my biggest driving momentum. Is like I'm gonna work and live the life that I would have been able to show him that he should have stayed. And so it's a really rough thing. I remember I was in a super, super dark place after that. Like I remember driving down the toll road going back towards Wiley, which is where my dad lives. I mean, my dad are close now. But driving with my old Ram truck, just going and seeing like the barrier on the side of the road, just like if I like maybe Michael was right, and just thinking like if I hit that barrier hard enough, I can go right over the edge of it, and then it's just over, and it's done. I don't have to worry about any more bills, no more work, no more stress, no more loss. It's all just done, and that's just what I thought at the time. And I just remember like as I was just barreling towards the barrier, I just remember I don't remember exactly what part, but it's just like where the curve goes down to the main road on the ground. And I just remember like everything. It felt like everything slowed down, and just all the stuff that I should be here for and I had to fight for kind of washed over me. And it was like my niece. My dad has kids outside of my mom, like my half sisters and half brothers, and so like remembering those people, and then just remember what my grandpa told me when I was younger that I had to kind of restore the family name. Like all these things kind of washed over me, and was like, look, and that was like a big wake up call for me.
Yeah.
Before then, I was kind of a bottom beater. Like I was happy working, just whatever job, as long as it paid the bills, and I could play on computer games all day. That's all I really wanted to do. And I had to get a wake up call. And it really just that was kind of one of the moments. And then just talking more and more to some of my other family, like my aunt, and just hearing about all the stuff in my family's history, like John F. Overfield, who was one of the senators in early America in Kansas, and he started the Oil and Trade Commission for the United States. He actually helped America, before there was foreign oil, get oil trade and start exporting oil for us to make money in the country. That's my great grandpa.
Wow.
And then she followed the whole genealogy line up to Benjamin Rush, who's one of our first Supreme Court justices. That's all family and stuff like that. So everybody always talks about service above self and giving more than you take, and be as successful as possible so you can give more than anyone else.
Yeah.
And a big thing for me, just the mental toughness part, going back to that, like I think I just really had to just like hit face first, rock bottom, like feel like everything was lost, everything was pulled apart, everything was gone, before I really just woke up and saw that I can do this, that it's going to be good, it's going to be okay. Because I don't think that a lot of people are able to pick themselves back up, and for whatever reason, I think a lot of people hit that rock bottom and they kind of stay there. And I hope and I wish and I pray that most people do get to push themselves back up. But I think it's a thing where another big reason why is, if my funny looking self, if I can get back up and dust myself off and get up and moving, and I can show one person that it's okay to go to another day, that they can make it, they can do it, then I think that's more valuable to me than anything. That's all I need, just to help one person. If I can do just one, then why not two? Then why not three? Then why not four? Why not keep going? So,
yeah, that's good.
It's got to be about more than just me. And if it was all about me, then I probably wouldn't be here. If I would have never broken that selfish cycle. But looking around the world and seeing other people that could use a hand up and a high five, or whatever I can do to help out and give back is going to be a bigger calling for me to keep myself standing.
That's really good, man. So I mean, as I was listening to your story and kind of you were talking about not only your grandpa, but as you look back to some of the forefathers that you had, like your great grandfather and all those guys, legacy was a key part of all of that, right? It sounds like kind of kept you going. I mean, it's an important component.
Yeah, I mean, legacy is massive. Like I didn't know anything. Like growing up with my mom, like the reason maybe my mom and my dad, but she kind of just took us and went away. She took me and Michael and Matthew, and we just kind of bolted, right? And so I didn't know anything about my legacy. I didn't know that my grandpa, my great grandpa, Jack, had actually flown in the Air Force. Like, I didn't know that. I thought I was the first person in my family to join the military when I first joined the Air Force. Like,
Yeah.
I found all this stuff, all this legacy. It puts a lot of respect in your backbone, so to say. It gives you some lineage to rise up to. And learning all that stuff, it definitely made me feel like I had more weight in this world, if that makes sense. I had more like roots here to go ahead and grow with.
So your purpose was established kind of inside of that a little bit.
Yeah, it kind of made me like, it's family. Like, this is the family business. We got to help and we got to serve, right?
Yeah.
So, it did give me a very big purpose.
That's really interesting, man. Yeah, I love that component because, I mean, I think I was kind of in that similar spot when I was younger, you know, and then my mom kind of started getting into that whole genealogy thing. And I started looking back to like my last name, the Huddleston, and you know, and even though in my mind, like everything up to that point that Huddleston had represented wasn't really anything worth kind of, you know, representing well, I looked back at it, you know, historically, and like even on the family arms, the coat of arms, you know, the family motto was "Glory be to God alone." You know, and at that point I wasn't a Christian, but I was like, that's interesting, you know. So I started researching that, and it took it all the way back to the 1200s, and there was a castle of Huddleston in England, you know, and the history behind that. And so kind of looking at that, and it was like, man, there's really a lot of cool stuff to learn about your family lineage, and that does matter, you know, at the end of the day. So for all the guys listening, I want them to understand that, because whatever they're going through in life right now, you know, and even though it seems pretty dark or maybe not or whatever else, like the impact that you leave well beyond. I mean, you're talking about how many great grandfathers back?
Yeah, I mean, this is great. I mean, I don't even know. This is back in like 1778, 1776, that time frame, like first Supreme Court justices, and that's, I mean, to me, that's massive. Like, that's like, you think about like the founding fathers are 10 years younger than I was at their time when they were forming a country and saving the world, signing their own death warrant on that Declaration of Independence.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here like, man, do I have chicken sandwich or do I have the salmon? Like, and they're like, let's save the world, let's start a new nation. And you know, yeah, it's so crazy to think of that entire lineage, that the legacy of it all. It's so much weight there, and it gives you more of a purpose and more of a reason, like you said. I mean, I would have never. I mean, like thinking back, like I mean, like you, like when I look back at like recent family history, it's like, oh, there's nothing super notable until I get to John Overfield. But like but after that, it's like we used to have like the land that the Phillips 66 brothers, like Phillips 66 gas stations, how they got that land is they gambled, and they got it from my family because they got drunk and gambled the plot of land in Oklahoma, Cushing, Oklahoma, and they gambled away to the Phillips brothers. And other than that, we had a lot of money from our oil stuff, and then they just got stupid and they didn't respect it. It was old money that had no respect or anything like that, and so they just threw it away. And so like it kind of makes you feel there's legacy that makes you feel foolish, but it makes you rise to the occasion as well. So I think it's definitely like examples of good and bad, and you know, bad things are examples of what not to do, and good things are examples of what to follow.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. The identity component is absolutely critical. I go over that with the guys that I'm consulting with a lot of times. We have to get identity right and then move into purpose. Because if your identity from where you came from, who you are as a man, who God says you are, all those such things all play into your purpose. And then once you understand that, you can develop your mission. So that's solid, man. So somehow along the way, you got kind of led into politics, because you're talking about just a few years back, you were kind of a bottom feeder, you know? Like, dude, what is it? I mean, obviously, you know, the death of your brother, and that was at that moment on the highway that kind of shifted everything for you, for real.
Yeah, it was that kind of that moment that kind of like woke me up, got me off the ground and moving. There were some other things that led into that, but like, I mean, girl stuff, like dating a girl at the time that didn't work out, but that's all minor in the grand scheme of things. But how politics came along was after that moment, I got a phone call. Actually, I got a Facebook message from a guy named Chris Bingham from the Collin County Young Republicans, and he had no idea who I was. He just saw that I was like being some butthead on Facebook and debate and stuff. And I love confrontation. So don't get me wrong, I love confrontation. I love arguing and debate. I love it. I enjoy it. And so he asked me to come out to a social meeting, and so I went out there to a social, just a member, go out there and have a beer with the guys, and kind of introduce some people. I didn't really have any friends out here still, and so kind of just doing that thing, and then it kind of just kept moving, and I would start getting in debates with people and talking to people. Some people like what I had to say, some people didn't, but I would always be open, like, well, like we can have a difference of opinion. How do we get this to where it's a better answer for everyone? I can be wrong on things too, and my opinion isn't always right. So let's have a conversation. And it just kind of went growing. And politics is one of those things, like, sure, there's the grand scheme and the main stage of the presidency and
Yeah.
congressmen and all that fun stuff, but there's a lot of stuff at the local level that's going to affect you tomorrow, like taxes and like property taxes and whether you can, exercise your rights in a rightful manner or not, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And so that's stuff that was really interesting to me, and being able to go speak up, because I sit there and think about people who don't even pay attention to it, or people who want to but they can't either. And so
Yeah.
being able to kind of go be that voice for those people who don't have a reason or a method or a way to go and speak up, like if I could do that for them, then that's me giving back in just another way possible.
Do you think politics actually matters?
I do. I think politics is massive. I mean, like right now, like the president and our former president, whether you love him or hate him, I'm not going to sit here and tell you to take sides. You guys know which side I lie on. But Obama was divisive, and Trump's a little bit divisive as well. So you've got people that are not divisive as in like attacking people, but like if Republicans are bad or Democrats are bad, and they kind of go after each other, there's a very big split there. And I think politics is important for the general everyday American that doesn't necessarily pay attention to it, because they can say that, like, look, there's good ideas on both sides. So let's bring some sanity back to the conversation and get what's best for every American, get what's best for the generic, John Smith or Jane Doe. Let's get like the everyday Americans back and engaged in the conversation, because if we don't, then all we've got is a bunch of this echo chamber going on that's just going to rattle against each other for the sake of rattling against each other.
Yeah.
So I think politics is super massive. And I mean, when we were at that event, we saw Mark Cuban. He said the same thing. He's not a Republican or a Democrat. He's just there to do what he thinks is the best thing. And I think if more people took that aspect, I'd love to see union guys inside meetings. I'd love to see pipe workers. I'd love to see computer techs. I'd love to see all these different scopes, because that's how we get the better answers faster. That's how we make sure that everything is moving forward in a way that's best for everyone.
Yeah. Well, it seems, I mean, from that perspective, I mean, like a lot of the stuff that that's happening up in DC on, one side or the other, and however we tend to see that, like I'm conservative, obviously, in that realm. So I look at a lot of the stuff that's happening on the left side right now, and it's complete lunacy. So it's really hard to give any credibility to that component of it. And I know that not everybody's like that. Most people call themselves one or the other, and they absolutely are not either, because they're not really engaged, except for when it comes time to vote, and they like to get, they like to kind of go get their little, kiss on the cheek and I added this or whatever else, and they're back to doing whatever they do. Yeah, totally. And they're back to it. So, but, and a lot of that I think is generational. Our parent was Democrat, or our parent was Republican, and this and that, or whatever else. And so we're not asking ourselves the right questions. So how do you actually do what you're talking about and have kind of open dialogue, when one side or the other is so freaking off base,
Yeah, you talk to your neighbor, I think. I mean, I've got Democrat friends that I talk to all the time, and they're not nearly as far left as you see people on TV.
Right.
That's what gets the views, because people on the both sides, I'd say America's about 75% moderate, right? I'd say that some people lean right, some people lean left, but down the middle, I think it's about 74%. Then you have the last percentage split up half and half between both sides, which is the far left and the far right. You have people that are saying, like entirely shut down the borders, no immigration whatsoever, and you have people saying that you have to use 100 pronouns and all these other crazy things that are not really going to resonate with everybody.
Yeah.
And so, but for the most part, the rest of America is going to pretty much be down the line. Like, look, well, both of those things sound creepy or sound junky, but that person made me mad, so I'm going to vote the other way.
Yeah.
But if I go talk to my neighbor or the Denton County Young Democrats chair, Paige Dixon, I talk to her quite a bit. And when we talk, like, we vehemently disagree on policy, but she's got backbone enough to have a conversation and talk with me. And so
I love that personally. I'm the same way. I love going against, like, not against somebody per se, but having dialogue with somebody who has their own opinions about something, and then not just parroting what they've heard off of, whether it be CNN or Fox or whatever else, but you have your own things in place. And guys like us, we're out on the field a lot of times, like meeting the people who everybody else is talking about. And so we get the full picture, but it's really hard to get people to grasp that because they don't have any context a lot of times, right?
Yeah, and I think that people get stuck in their comfort zone as well. You want to talk to people who are most like you. So you and me, we can talk about policy and politics all day. We're going to agree just about 99% of the time, right?
Probably, yeah.
But it's hard for me to go talk to somebody else and have a differing opinion. Lots of people just want to have an easy kind of go with the flow thing, and a difference of opinion is something that you're very, very adamant about. Like me, I'm very pro-life and I'm very Second Amendment.
Yeah.
Somebody who doesn't like either one of those things, it's hard for me to have a conversation about those because I feel like those are like human rights, right? And so it's one of those things where people typically, unless they like the confrontation, like myself, or they don't want to they just don't want to leave a bad taste in their friend's mouth or upset a friend or something like that. They kind of steer away from that stuff.
Yeah.
But I think, like you said, you and me, we're always out there going to meeting these people that are saying these things and doing this stuff. So we get to get a different picture than a lot of people. But being able to sit down and talk to somebody like Paige, like I talked about, I can have a conversation with her, and she'll vehemently disagree with me on policy, but she'll be respectful about it. She'll be honest, and she'll be like, look, I understand here's what you believe, and I don't understand that you're not coming from a bad place with it, but she'll ask me why I believe that way, and I can explain that to her. And she's, that makes sense. I can see that.
Yeah.
Here's why I believe this way. We can actually have an adult conversation, which I think is getting thrown out the window a lot lately as well. So.
Yeah. Do you think that people can actually meet in the middle on those types of things, or is it ever? I mean, because at the end of the day, like, does anybody really want to give their conviction away? I mean,
right, no. I think you can keep your convictions, but you can partner in other areas. So, like, I might be strong on those areas.
Yeah.
But she might say, look, so I think that we should have, let's see, medical marijuana. I can say, cool. I don't think it's the government's job to regulate what you should put in your body or not. So we can agree on that. Like, she thinks it's a human right. I think it's not the government's job. So we have different thoughts of where we come from with that, but the end goal is still the same. So we can work together for that. I think kind of like separating the roots and coming together where we need to build that bridge is what really matters.
Yeah, it's interesting because I actually did some work with one of the local Democrats here in the city of Grapevine, because we both came into agreement on term limits for the city council. And so we both kind of spearheaded that at the same time, which was an interesting approach, but it was like, there's a lot of other things that I didn't agree with her. Very similar type of scenario, actually. She's very pro, left kind of angle, but on that particular deal, we agreed, and we actually were out, at the polls, like, handing out flyers and all that stuff together with her team and me and all this kind of thing. So, yeah, I agree, man. I think that's the beauty of this too, is when you can actually open up to hear what other people have to say, and then be able to, like, if you can put the anger component back. I think the anger component goes into it when we don't actually know how to articulate what we believe, right?
Right, you get frustrated, right?
Yeah.
And you don't know what to say, and you're just like, and you get more frustrated with yourself because you can't articulate it, like you said, and you get just frustrated that the message gets out there, and you like, it and you feel it and you believe it, but you don't know how to put that into words to get them to know and feel and believe the same thing that you do.
Yeah.
And so there's that lapse there. And so I think that's, like you said, I think you're 100% right there. Just it's frustration with just the lack of being able to articulate that.
Yeah. So what do you think is the answer for that? Like, learning how to articulate. I mean, you're a very articulate guy. You're a fast thinker, fast talker, all those kind of things. But is that a typical thing, for the dude who's like out, he's a sheep farmer out in the middle of the country, you know what I'm saying? And he's kind of just like happy sheep farming, but he still needs to understand politics, because all of the things that are being relegated, kind of put to the table inside of politics are still going to affect him, whether he wants to admit it or not, or likes it,
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes with I think that grit, so to say, comes in with being part of the game, right? So, growing up like how I did, I think like being able we used to do rap battles. I used to do rap battles, just that's the only way you can make friends, right? So, getting picked on, having to have snappy comebacks, just being able to think on your feet, just super quick and have that response, that kind of comes a lot into play. And I think that a big part for why it comes from me is just, like I said, it's just being in that environment.
Yeah.
But for somebody who's not into that environment, somebody's like a sheep farmer, or they just farm in corn, they just want to do their thing. I mean, they themselves know what they need to do, and they can make their voice heard at the ballot box, or they can have a conversation. But I think that the bigger thing to do is to go ahead and actually get involved and try. Like, think about if somebody asked you, like, so what are your convictions? What are your issues that are most important to you? Then ask yourself that question. How would you describe that? Kind of prepare something beforehand. So,
yeah.
I mean, if I know I'm going into a debate or something like that, and I know what the questions might be, I'm going to say, hey, Chris, so how do you defend this? I'm like, okay. And then I actually get time beforehand, as long as I need to go actually articulate an answer myself and say, look, well, I like this because of this. I like it because of this. I like this because of that, blah, blah, and go through that list and actually have something like basically premeditated, ready to go. That way it's a lot easier. Not saying that that's always possible, but if you do it once or twice for your core beliefs, then you're going to pull that back quite a few times. You're going to be able to evolve on that and grow on that as you have these conversations with people.
Yeah, and this is actually a huge component of being a man from my perspective, because if you don't know what you stand for based on principles anyway, and you're not really super clear on that, and you're willing to go and actually die on the line, because like, I think sometimes you have to be willing to do that, right? You have to make the decision, like, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, and I will die before I ever take any yield to any other aspect of that. And I think that because if we don't do that, then what are we? We're just being tossed around by the wind all the time. And I think that we can have civil discussion with people, but if it ever comes down to you choose this or you choose that, like I'm going to take my stance, and that's where it's going to be. And I think that that's important. I don't think that's a bad thing by any means, unless the other side's willing to have that conversation and we're not. And I think that's
Right.
a problem, obviously.
Yeah.
That's super good. So from the Republican clubs, I want to kind of dive into this because I want people to understand, one, that they need to have these convictions and that they need to be involved in politics, and not just because Corey says to go get involved in politics, but that it actually is going, it's, at the grand scheme of things, like I look at the presidential election and I'm like, man, best case scenario, we're just fighting, we're posturing every 4 years. Does it really ever make a difference at that level? I think it does to some degree because of the laws and stuff that are implemented in that time and stuff. They're going to take time, but it's like everybody's battling for power and they're just kind of doing whatever it takes to kind of win that next election. And so we spend a lot of time doing that. But locally and state level wide, I mean, those are the laws that really affect us anyway, like you were saying, where it comes down to our taxes or all the other things that affect us, our kids, the people around us, and all that. From the conservative perspective, or even getting into some of these like young Republicans clubs and all this kind of stuff, like what is the point of those things?
A lot of it is fellowship, so you can meet some people that are like-minded, have conversation with people that, like, not to totally just corn out the phrase, but it's going to be a safe space. Like, if you go out there with conservative conviction, that people aren't going to spit on you or throw things at you or attack you. You come to like Denton County or any kind of Texas Republican club event, nobody there is going to call you an idiot or attack you. They're going to say, okay, cool. That's interesting that you think that. Why do you think that? Like, and they're going to actually have a conversation.
Yeah.
And so they'll even offer alternatives. So what about this? Or how about that? And they're going to actually have a conversation. So it's good fellowship. As well as if you want to get more involved. So if you want to get more involved at the county level, the city level, or the state level, it's a nice opening point to say, look, here's what's going on. Here's some information for you. Here's how you get started. Here's where to go from here.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of really good stuff. I've met some of the best people in the world in these organizations, some of my best friends in the world in these organizations. And there's always going to be arguments that happen, just like with anything, with work, with family, with anything. But at the end of the day, like, you've got really good people that, no matter what, for the most part, are starting and take this journey because they want to do something better for everyone else. They want to serve, they want to give. And when you come to these events, you can see that. You can see that there's people that are self-interested, but you can see that it all starts from a place of wanting to give back, and it all starts from a place of wanting to go somewhere else. And so I think it's massive. I mean, I go out there to our socials in Denton County for Denton County Young Republicans, the YRs. I go out there, we have a social, and I just grab a beer and meet with some people that have never come out to a meeting before, and we just talk, and they're coming from either like the Liberty side of the party or the more establishment side, grassroots, any kind of different organization of the party. And it's just good to get a different thing and not sit in the echo chamber of the same stale, stagnant ideas and not ever grow yourself. So it's really a good environment.
That's awesome. Yeah, a lot of the things that I've been to too, we've actually had Democrats show up at some of these events, and a lot of it boils down to like they're coming to either we invite them in to share their ideas, and if they're bold enough to come and do that, then they're welcome to do that, but also just to come in and see what it's about, and they realize that we're not a bunch of pitchfork holding, flame throwing, like hillbillies or something. I think, it's kind of the typical messaging that goes along with it, but that at the end of the day, we're people. Everybody's people, man, and I think that's an important thing that we have to do, because when we start segmenting out into all these things, like, it's not just non-productive, it's extremely dangerous.
Right.
Like, I mean, so with that in mind, like, where do you see kind of the future of things left unchanged?
If things keep going the direction they're going, I don't think they're going to. I think our next presidential election is going to be something after, like, I think 2024 is going to be a very surprising year. But I think if things keep going in the divisive manner, this massive splits that keep going, and I think it's going to be really dangerous, because then you start rationalizing things against people that disagree with you. You start thinking of them as your enemy, or they're trying to take things from you. You think they're trying to attack your rights. You think they're trying to take away your freedom. You start visualizing them as an enemy. And I think that's where things get really dangerous. And I think what you have to do is kind of come back and say, look, like, you're just a person that just believes in a better, believes making America a better place tomorrow in a different manner.
Yeah.
And I believe in my way. You believe in your way. Let's have a conversation, find the best.
Yeah.
And if things left unchanged, it's going to get rockier and rockier. Then really terrible stuff could happen, right?
Yeah.
I think in 2024, though, what's going to happen is we're going to have almost like the age of moderacy. I'm hoping it's like the age of moderacy. Like things just come back. People get back to like we've had far left, we've had far right. How do we get back together and start looking at what's better for America? It'll be a boring election. It'll be something that's super simple, no controversial ideas, but it'll be like getting America back on track. Is my entire hope. So that's what I think is going to happen.
Where's your basis for that?
Just hearing how tired people are. Like I've got Republicans that love Trump. I've got Republicans that hate Trump. I've got I got Democrats that like Hillary Clinton. I've got Republicans that hate Hillary Clinton. Same with Bernie. Same with Ted Cruz. Across the board. I think that a lot of people are just tired of this constant fight within the political circles. It's just a fight no matter what.
That does wear you out.
And I think in the past, like whenever I was first getting involved with it, it was you could kind of have okay, like cool, those are the Democrat guys, that's fine. But nowadays, I go and if I hang out with somebody who's Democrat, like, oh, he was hanging out with liberals, like what's he doing over there? Like it's now it's Cowboys versus Indians. It's not the Cowboys playing for who's team captain. So and I think that's a big issue. I think my whole idea is I think people are just tired of this back and forth, this big fight, and I think people want to get back to just loving their neighbor. So I think that it's just a hunch, basically.
Yeah, there's a lot there, man. I think, I look at like kind of the state of social media, and I've been in marketing for 7-8 years, really 10 years, but like really engaged with my own agency for the last 7-8. And it's interesting because, like as much as we want to believe that, it's way too easy to ignite a powder keg in an area where bits of information are getting sent out and you're getting manipulation by the media. You're getting a lot of those types of things that are really influencing a lot of things in a second, right? So we don't have a ton of time to get context. Nobody's really taking the time to do that because they haven't been taught how to do that, because culturally that's really not how things are anymore, right? So I kind of wonder about that, to some degree.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of the situation is people aren't taught that their ideas, that there's different ideas out there anymore. Like, I mean, going and hearing from some of my nieces and nephews, teachers and stuff like that here and there, it's just like you'll sit there and like no, like you can tell them they're wrong. Like nobody gets told they're wrong anymore. Everybody gets a participation trophy.
Yeah.
There's no more struggle anymore, and struggle builds strength. Like I'm a firm believer that the harder life is, the stronger you're going to be from. And there's sometimes where there's a breaking point. 100%. I've been fortunate enough to come out unscathed so far. Hopefully unscathed. Maybe a little bit mentally or something like that. Who knows? I'm a weirdo. But
I like it.
But no, I mean, but that struggle is going to build that strength, and that turbulence is going to create opportunity. That's what that's there for. You have to have those issues and those moments where things break you down and beat you up, so that way you know how to get back up.
Yeah.
And I think that kids nowadays, I'm only 31, but I think the kids nowadays are not getting that. I felt like there was a change going on whenever I was in school. So it's got to be like a dramatic shift in schools right now, where everybody's getting a participation trophy. Like I always told girlfriends, I was like, look, if we have kids, like if they get a participation trophy, we're throwing it away. Like you didn't win, so like it's good that you hung out and you got to play. That's your participation trophy, that you got to play.
Yeah.
Like if you want that trophy, that's your incentive to go work hard and work harder than anybody else and go earn it. You don't get to just say, hey, look, I was here, so I get a shiny toy too. Like that's not how the world works. That's not how anything works. I can't show up to work and just say I'm here, so I get my paycheck. I have to go provide and produce.
Yeah.
If I don't do that, then I don't get anything, and that's how the world works. And I think that's where we're running into a big troublesome shift right now, is that everybody's getting rewards for not producing anything.
Yeah. What do you think is the big, like, I mean, there's obviously a lot, but I guess what is the big divide between Republicans and Democrats? Like that thing, like what is it?
Where the responsibility lies to fix the issues is what I think. I think that a lot of Democrats think that the government's going to be able to solve the problems, and I think that a lot of Republicans believe that it's the body, it's the people that have to solve the problems, and the government serves us. I think it's kind of like think about like two different companies. Like the Democrat Incorporated, they think that the CEO should fix everything,
right?
And the CEO should handle everything from management down, and they should just take care of everything. It puts a big burden on the CEO. But the people, what they have like engagement communities, and they actually go into their managers, the employees engage, so the employee's voice gets heard a lot more. So the CEO is more somebody who kind of facilitates instead of organizes and runs everything. He facilitates.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's where the shift lies, because a lot of people, like, you look at debates, look at these arguments, like they want to tax more money so they can take care of this problem, but Republicans say, hey, look, if we don't need to do this because this is a people problem. People need to take care of it.
Yeah.
So I think it's just that the whole difference between it is whose responsibility it is to fix the problem. I think that's the main core shift.
Yeah, that is super fascinating because I mean I tend to agree with you. That does, and that I think that's a very frustrating thing because I don't know that that's ever untaught. Or maybe it is. Like I think the big key is we've got to have relationships with people. I was literally just having this conversation with a guy that I know here on Facebook actually, and he was talking about he had put a post of some poster saying uh, basically it was something about like if the schools could unleash people or something like that. And personally, I believe schools are just a subsidiary learning application. I mean, like they're not the primary learning function. That's the parents' job, 100%. But even if you don't have parents around you, which was his argument, was like, okay, well, what about the people who don't have that luxury of having that? The reality is that a school could never, ever, ever be that. Like they're running thousands of kids through the system to create them to be a cog in the machine, and like to expect them to actually go in and bring out the best in every single student that's coming out of there. That's a fool's dream. I mean, it just can't exist.
Right.
So, and I think that culturally, that's where guys like you and I and everybody else listening, all the guys inside of Wisdom and Grit, not only do we have the ability, but we have a duty, to go out there and disciple that next generation and to kind of, or whatever it is that we're doing, but we
Right.
Young Republicans Club or I'm sorry, the Young Democrats Club and all that kind of stuff. That relationship that y'all have is the thing that's going to keep that civil. Because
Right.
the second y'all start just trying to run like back and forth on Facebook or on Twitter or whatever else, there's no relationship and it's just, sound bites. Like you're never going to be able to convey the full message. And there's so much that goes on inside of body language from, how we approach people, the look in our eyes, the tonality of our voice, and all the things that we can do when we're in front of someone or even on a stream like this that you can never do through a written post or something like that.
Right, for sure. I mean, and the thing is, like, if you have those relationships, you can have stronger conversations. So,
yeah,
like, all the Democrats are saying we need socialized medicine, we need all this, we need the government to control our medicine. I'm like, okay, cool. So say you get that right now. It's in place today. Trump's in charge of it. How do you like that?
yeah, exactly.
No, I don't want that at all. I'm like, that's why it's not the government's job to do that. Because for us, it doesn't matter who's in charge because you get the choice as a person, as a people, to be able to make the decisions that most accurately reflect you and your family.
Yeah.
And they're starting to go, oh, yeah, that makes a little more sense. But we do need something. I was like, I agree. We need a catch-all for something. If something crazy happens and there's a crazy situation, we should not impoverish people for medical stuff that happens that's out of their control. But we also shouldn't be taking care of everybody's flu, everybody's cold, everything like that either. So I think you get to that point where you can have those harder conversations if you build a relationship and you work with people, even with Republican representatives in our state house and in Congress. If you're just going to throw bombs because they're not conservative enough or they're too moderate or anything like that, they're going to stop talking to you because they're people too. And so I can go have a conversation with somebody who could be a moderate Republican and say, look, here's what I think on these ideas, here's what I think on these issues. And they'll say, okay, well, why do you think that? We'll have a conversation. I've actually, like this last session, I've actually killed some cybersecurity bills by talking to representatives like, hey, look, I don't think this is a good bill. It doesn't actually offer any protections. But if I didn't have a relationship there, they would have never listened to me. If I would just throw bombs at them for disagreeing on a vote. So,
well, and that's the frustrating part with the politics, even on the conservative side or whatever else. It's everybody, and that's the way that it works. Squeaky wheel gets the grease, but you got people who don't take time to build those relationships, and then they start emailing people and like just spamming. I mean, like the guys that are running for a state representative, just conservative or Democrats, they're barely getting any kind of compensation, if at all.
Right.
Same with the city council, same with the school board and all that. And I get the frustration that people have, but it comes back down to what we were talking about earlier. If you don't know how to articulate your ideas, then we tend to respond with like negative energy and force, right? And so, and I get that because I do sometimes, but it's like, but I also love confrontation. So a lot of that is just kind of positioning for that type of a scenario, right? But at the end of the day, man, taking time to kind of build those relationships is absolutely critical. And that's where you make any kind of strides in politics. It's all about relationships, and people think that it's like, oh, they're just going to do the right thing. And that whole idea of what you're talking about with the Democrat thing, or talking to them about the healthcare or whatever, when I ran for city council, I had a girl that approached me because she was like, hey, I have an idea about getting some composting done for the city or whatever else. She was definitely left leaning. I think, like she's kind of a wild kind of like haircut kind of deal. I think she might have been like one of the transgender type people or whatever else. And she messaged me on Facebook on my campaign page, and I was like, you know what? Let's talk about that. I actually think that's an interesting deal. Although, like, she was wanting it to be like a city commanded thing, and I'm like, let's go have coffee. I want to understand more about your idea. And she had reached out to all the other people that were running for the city council, and nobody reached back out to her. And here I was, complete different sides of the aisle, but we're sitting there, and literally because I love hearing about business ideas or stuff like that, and I'm like, you actually have a brilliant idea here, but it's not the government's job to handle that, because here's why, right? That's going to increase taxes. You're going to enforce people to do something that they're not primarily used to doing in the first place. So adoption is going to be abysmally low. 1, 2, you're going to raise people's taxes to enforce them to do something they don't want to do in the first place. So you're going to be making a bunch of people angry. Why don't you do this? Why don't you set this up as a business model? I'll actually help you. And then you can go out and start selling this and like create a company out of this. And now you're creating jobs and you're creating all these things with this awesome idea. And so I worked with her to help kind of get her going on all that stuff, over the time. And so we were able to take something she thought was the city's job and help her to implement it for herself, So
That's
it's
awesome.
finding cool solutions like that. And I think that's really what it is. Like, we have the guys like us think about it being our job to make a difference, where I think with like typically what I've seen with liberal type mindsets is that they want big daddy government to kind of come in and handle it all.
Yeah, well, they just see an idea and they say, okay, this is a great idea. Somebody else go do it. I think a big problem with like people like you and me as well is like we're fighters. Like, we like being in the storm. We love being in the fire. Like, the dirtier, the messier it is, the more I feel at home. Like,
totally.
I mean, I don't know if it's because of growing up rough or just because of my personality, but like the more of like, if there's a volcano blowing up over here, there's a lightning storm here, a tornado and a hurricane, I'm like, oh, this is my happy place.
Yeah, that's exactly how I am. I'm glad that there's somebody else on this planet like that, because that's kind of always.
Well, it's like Andrew Jackson, totally. A calm does not suit me. A storm is a storm. I just blanked out on the quote, but
I saw that actually. Yeah,
a storm fits me. Yeah, but a calm does not suit me. So it's really good. It's about. I mean, it's just like we have to realize, like, us being that mindset that we like that fight, is that we have to tone it down and we have to pull it back and say, look, like, calm down, stop bringing fire and brimstone and everything. Let's pull out a super soaker a little bit and just spray some water and say, hey, look, so here's an idea. Let's work together on this and not set everything on fire. Which is a very valid thing. And I mean, like I said, like, you're the same way. Like, if there's a fight to be had, I'll be the first one to step up and take it. Like, no matter what it is, like, oh, these 3 guys want to fight, I'll step up. They're going to whoop my butt, but I'll take the fight, And so it's just one of those things, So.
And you never know, right? I mean, there's always that era of like, what if that kind of happens inside of that too, but.
Right. So, I mean, you never know your chances. So, but I think that's like, it's on all sides. There's always there's that, like I said, there's that 75% down the middle, and we have that lapse of that swing. And so I think you and I are on the outside, so we like to be in that fight. And so we have to kind of tune ourselves down and say, look, not everybody likes to be in the fight, because you and me, we can get, even if we disagree on something, we can get in the fight and then be like, oh, let's go play Xbox, let's go grab a beer, like, let's go do whatever, and be done with it. But people that aren't like that, they're going to be entirely 100% turned off by you after that moment from there on out. And so it's just one of the things that we got to tone it down. They've got to tone it down. Everybody's got to adapt a little bit. Like, you have to be your foundation in the world, but you also got to be able to build and flex a little bit to work with others.
Totally, yeah. No, that's good points, man. So how do people actually get involved in politics? Like, because you were there not too long ago. I mean, you weren't involved in politics and all that kind of stuff. So how did you go from, being a bottom feeder, as you put it, to kind of running 3 political component? I mean, the cool conservatives things, a PAC. PAC is a political action committee, for those who don't know, and that's basically just an organization that helps to kind of come in and move the needle right behind different candidates. That kind of, I mean, you probably have a better understanding of how to explain that, but.
Yeah. So, I mean, Cool Conservatives is an organization my buddy John Williams started. We've got a lot of awesome people on the team. I'm the vice chair. They had me on as fundraising initially.
Okay.
But now I'm just the vice chair. So I get to help out with a lot of our messaging, a lot of our outgo. But John Williams, he's really the brainchild behind that whole organization. He's done a really fantastic job. But for anybody who wants to kind of get out there and kind of get out there and get involved with it and see what's going on, they have something typically in your county called a county executive committee meeting. And so that's going to be at your committee level where you can see all the people that get involved in work. Sometimes it can be really exciting. Sometimes it can be really boring, just like a football game. Sometimes you get terrible ones. Sometimes you get amazing ones. Or you can go to a city council meeting, or you can go to a school board meeting. You can do a lot of different things that you can get a lot of different visibility on. It's all about just at least knocking on that door.
Yeah.
Because if you go to any of those meetings, you can usually find people that are huddled together, and typically they're connected somehow, but they can help you get connected somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so like I remember going to my first city council meeting in Plano. I was coming out to support Anthony Ricciardelli and Rick Smith, and it was the first time I've ever been in one. And I just kind of went out there, saw a group of people come out there, and I just started talking. I was like, hey, yeah, so what do you guys think? And just walked up there. I was not always outgoing, talk to everybody person. Yeah. But just kind of went out there, shook some hands, and they're like, well, here's this group, here's this organization. Are you looking to get more involved? And like literally, you open that door, they're going to help you. They're going to usher you along every step of the way.
Yeah.
And so literally just check out a meeting. In my city, Aubrey, I go to this town council meetings because we're a smaller city. Go to the town council meetings and just meet and greet and see what's going on to keep up to date and get to see what's going on in my city. So it's a really easy way to kind of jump in there. It takes an hour, maybe 2 out of your life once a month. But if you want to get involved in something, like you spend more time in traffic every month than you do at that meeting. So it's not a massive, it's not that big of a deal to take out of your time to go and check things out.
Yeah, man. I mean, and to be like the same, I think you had mentioned this earlier, but like the people that you meet and the relationships that you build, I mean, you're meeting and growing relationships with people that are actually making the rules. I mean, you're meeting like a lot of higher profile type of people who are getting things done, who are active, who are motivated, who want to make an impact. Like, so it's a lot of the same type of people that you want to be around and that you're wanting to become. So right. It's definitely worth getting involved in. The other thing I want to kind of put a little disclaimer out there for those that might be listening is like, for those that don't know politics, is that pick a thing. Like it doesn't, like this, the thing about politics that is frustrating is there's so much that goes on at any given time. It can be extremely overwhelming. And the key is like, go find something that you love. Like, so get involved in a Young Republicans club or Young Democrats club or whatever else, or, you know, anything that you feel like compelled to go and be a part of, and then figure out like, what is it that of those things that really speaks to you? Maybe it's on these elections and you're a door knocker and you like going out and doing that because you like meeting people and convincing them and using your abilities to do that. Or maybe it's, you know,
I hate block walking, but it's necessary.
About you, yeah, I'll just say, yeah, I think you'd be ineffective there anyway. You need to be the guy kind of running the digital component or something, you know, or like you're the big thinker, man, the strategy guy, right? So, but I mean, there's a million different ways you can get involved, and thinking that you have to be in at every level or even that you could be is really just unreasonable. So, and you got state, national, local level, you know, and then all kinds of stuff inside of each one of those. So school boards, city councils, building and planning, planning and zoning commissions, you know, all those things that you can be a part of. So,
I mean, yeah, you think about like getting super involved with something that's going to affect you tomorrow. You go to your school board meetings, those school board meetings, those who are elected get to choose a superintendent, which chooses the curriculum that your school follows. That chooses if you do Common Core or if you do traditional math. That chooses all these things. And that affects your student the next year. That affects your kid the next year. Or if you don't have kids in school yet, that affects your kids down the line, because if you don't start now, then 10 years when you do have a kid, where's that line going to be drawn at then? Then the stuff that you're worried about now is going to be, well, that was forever ago. We're so far past that, like, and then it's almost impossible to make any changes you want to make. So there's, like Corey's saying, like there's a lot of stuff that's happening right now that you can get involved with about your thing that you care about. Just find something. Find one thing that you care about. You care about service dogs. There's tons of things for projects for service animals. If you care about property taxes, there's property tax stuff left and right, all up and down everywhere.
Yeah.
Just find your one thing that you're passionate about. Go learn about it and go out there and just have conversations with people. People are a lot more friendly than it seems on the news.
It's a lot of fun too. Yeah, you're connecting with the lawmakers and a lot of people. Like I've gotten really connected with a lot of guys down in Austin, and built really solid relationships with a lot of the state reps and some of the senators and different things like that. And city councils, I know all of the surrounding city council members and school board people, you know, like really well. So around my whole area. So, you know, and a lot of that does just come with time, but you get in there and just don't feel like you have to know a lot about politics to go get involved either. Like even when it comes to like call your senator now, you know, you got all these people telling you that. And I remember whenever I I would hear that, and I used to get like cold sweats because people were like, "Man, I need to call this guy, but what happens if he calls me out on it? You know, or what I'm calling, or he starts drilling me, and then he makes a mock." Like it doesn't happen like that. They're your public servants, you know, and that's what I think people really need to understand is like it's not that hard to make an impact because the reality is not many people are involved in politics. It's actually a really small circle of people that are out there. Really, I mean, wouldn't you say like what? It's really small. I mean,
think about the grand scheme of things, yeah, it's such a tiny scope. And like, you think like you get to a meeting, there's like 20, 30, 40 people there, and you think that that's happening to them every day. It's not. They're doing that meeting once a month or a couple times a month. Like, the circle's so tiny. I see people, I go to meetings all over the DFW Metroplex. I see the same people that are like me going to meetings all over the Metroplex. Like, you don't even live in Grapevine. And like, I know. And when I see him over in Denton County, I'm like, you don't live in Denton. What are you doing? And they're like, I came out here to see. I'm not being rude to them like that, but I'm just like, hey, what are you out here for?
Yeah.
They're just checking it out. They're seeing that circle. They enjoy the conversations. They like finding new ideas.
Building alliances, doing all that stuff.
Yeah. And then also all the representatives are super friendly. Like my Congressman, Michael Burgess, has always had an open door. My state representative, Jared Patterson, has always had an open door if I want to talk about anything. Even the neighboring ones. But I'm not a constituent of theirs. I can never vote for them. I can never do anything to affect their life whatsoever. They always have an open door.
So Michael Burgess, just for those of you listening, because not everybody's from Texas or whatever else, but he's a congressman, Jerry Patterson. What does he do now? Because I know he was running.
State representative for the state of Texas, yeah.
Oh, okay, but wasn't he the state or the where was he at before though?
He was the city council in Sanger.
Oh, okay, I don't know. He wasn't like at a higher level though. I thought he was like.
No, there's a Jerry Patterson that ran for global land or for land commissioner's office.
Oh, okay, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a separate one. So people mix them up quite a bit.
So. Yeah, when you said that. Okay, cool. But yeah, so anyway, going out and building. I mean, heck, I remember back during the initial election when Dan Patrick and all those guys were going. There was a meeting at a buddy of mine's house. You know Jonathan Gaspard?
Yeah, I know Jonathan really well.
Okay, yeah. So Jonathan, he was my finance guy whenever I ran for city council. So my treasurer.
Very cool.
But anyway, so he was having a little meet and greet at his place where he was living. There might have been 10 or 15 people there, and Dan Patrick was there, who was running for the state lieutenant governor position, you know, at the time. And I'm just like, that's typically how it is. Like once they're in, they're bigger and they're a little bit more sophisticated. But even still, it's usually the same people once you get into it, and that circle is really small. So it's really easy if you have any kind of a dynamic personality at all. Or a way to stand out and kind of be seen. It's easy to kind of move up through the ranks pretty quick and get to know a lot of people and be considered as an ally in what you're doing. So,
right, yeah, just go shake hands and high five. That's all you gotta do. Have a conversation, man.
Yeah, super be willing to go in there and learn, and be willing to get your hands dirty and like roll up your sleeves and go get to work, because that's the thing at the end of the day. And it's just like anything in life, man. The work is heavy and the laborers are few, right? So I mean, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done, and you know, if we're not out engaging in this stuff, then we really have no place to get in there and complain about it.
Right. Yeah. And like you said, there's lots of work to do, and there's not a lot of people to do it. But the thing is like nobody's forced to do it, and you can go there and get met at your level. If you want to help out with this, then I mean, people are going to meet you at your level. They're going to always try to push you and stretch you, as they should. They're trying to push for a cause. Anybody with a logical mind is going to do that. Anybody who's a Christian is going to try to talk to you about being a Christian because they believe.
Yeah.
Same with anything, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like just go out there and shake a hand. I mean, you'll find people that are also as passionate as you are that can actually open you up to other things that are going on that will make you more. That can find your passion as well. Like, I mean, like I said, I started out as a pro-life person. Second Amendment grew really fast with me, and then. Taxes became another one because I'm a homeowner now. So I'm like, oh man, this is ridiculous. Like they're just robbing me hand over foot. And so there's a lot of things that go with it. So you just got to get out there and meet, and then you'll literally just start going down the line, and you'll start meeting people that agree with you. You'll start evolving on issues and growing on issues and finding other issues that you're passionate about as well. And nobody's going to force you to do anything. Nobody's going to look down on you if you just come and you're a cheerleader in the stands. Like you just want to come and visit. Nobody's just going to meet you where you're at. And that's the best thing about it.
Totally. Yeah. There's as much opportunity or as little as you want. When you get in,
it's a contact sport, but it's voluntary.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the bigger issue is like we need some unique thinkers, like especially in the conservative side. You know, it's kind of, there's a lot of people who are out there fighting, and I don't know much about the Democrat side on that kind of thing, but people who can come in and who have different skill sets and that kind of thing that can utilize that to help kind of take the message out there, because the message at its core is actually superior message, but it's just getting people to understand it in a way that they understand. Because as conservatives, we kind of tend to have that that like just do it anyway kind of mindset, because we're so like get or done type of people, we don't sit around trying to help people understand why and all that kind of stuff as much. I'm not blanket statementing, but I'm just saying like that's what I've seen overall. So from a marketing standpoint, I'm really sensitive to that because I can see where we can improve drastically. But we need people out there who are willing to take the time to help them understand why conservatism is, a great thing. So awesome, man. Well, dude, I really appreciate the time today. This was a great conversation. And I know there's a lot of guys out there that maybe they've had the desire to want to get involved in politics, but either they've kind of taken a step back because they don't really know how to get involved in the first place, or, maybe felt like they didn't have anything to bring to the table or whatever else. So you gave some good pointers there on how to do that. So thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. If you have any other questions, they can always reach out to me and come bug me. I'll put them to work. I'll find somewhere where they can fit in. Like we'll get something done. So yeah, I'm glad you had me on here, man. This has been awesome. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a pleasure, man. Well, guys, thanks so much for being here today. I appreciate your time. As always, like Chris brought it to the fire. I mean, he lit it up, and we've always got great guests and got a lot of great things going on. If you guys are in the group at all and you feel like you're getting a lot of value out of this, I want you to reach out to other men in your life that you feel like are men of impact or that they want to be that, and help them understand what we're doing here inside of the group. Bring them in to be a part of the conversation. And if you're willing and ready to take your what you're doing to the next level, I've just launched Head First, which is our paid group. So $97 a month, you get access to trainings every single week. You get access to a group of people who are committed, who are taking action in their own lives, who are willing to do what it takes to make their path in life. And we cover mental toughness, mindset, and execution, so that you can take it to the next level. So I'll put that link down in the comment section as well. Otherwise, you guys have a great day. Chris, why don't you tell them where to find you at and get a hold of you?
Yeah, if you want to reach me, you can always reach me on my Facebook. It's just facebook.com/cbetts87, CBETTS87. I don't have a website or anything like that. I'm just a humble activist with a big ego. So
there you go.
Just like to help out. Or you can go on coolconservatives.org, check them out, check us out. My contact information is on there as well.
Awesome. All right, guys, y'all have a wonderful day. Chris, thanks again, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good one.